thought his warrior was going to be left up, but then paladin is kind of in there to be good against warlock anyway, and it does feel like it's a little more susceptible to rogue. So basically, all things considered, Alutemu on the rogue to start things off. I think this is a deck that should be very, very easy to get a win with over the course of the series, especially with the supremely high level of play that Alutemu has shown us with this deck.
Right. I mean, I still wouldn't say very, very easy, but even prior to this round of nerfs for Quest Shaman, I do think the Rogue was favored, and obviously that's only gotten better for Rogue because they didn't get hit by any nerfs, but Shaman still definitely has the capability to put forward early pressure. That much was not affected by the nerfs because Perpetual Flame is not part of the pressure equation, and it's not in the sense that you necessarily want to get super early Brukan to win this game. I think it's more important to have that Feral Spirits or even just an early Canal Slugger stick to the board and maybe get over the top with some burn damage. So in that sense, I like that Bankyugi's early curve is keeping the Lightning Bloom. The Marsh Spawn is a way to get payoff from the Lightning Bloom, but he does need to hit one more piece of Overload to really unlock that first stage cleanly.
Well, there we go. It could theoretically be turn 2, you go Bloom, Coin, Guidance, Slogger, and then Marsh Spawn the turn after with all your crystals unlocked. It's always a little scary to just go Canal Slogger into an empty board because you're playing a 4-drop with 4 health, which is actually very susceptible. But there's a lot of stuff you can mess around with on this turn, basically.
Yeah. And Bankyugi's going for the slowest approach here by coining the Marsh Spawn. Another Bloom! Oh my gosh. His next turn, he has like 7 mana. He can play both the Canal Slogger and the Serpentine Portal.
Dude, Bankyugi is just the Shaman Whisperer. I swear every time we see him on this deck, he gets the literal perfect hand.
I didn't even think it was necessarily Marsh Spawn that turn. I was thinking, like, the Canal Slugger play I kind of liked. Okay, he can start with the Portal and, yeah, double Bloom. Have both Blooms be part of Quest Stage 1 so that you are overloaded for 1 instead of 2 the next turn. I like this. Going for full aggro versus Rogue makes sense to me.
Oh yeah, because while a 4 health 4-drop may be difficult to clear, while there's a bunch of other stuff on board, it becomes an awful lot harder. And that Moccasin as well is low-key pretty clutch here just to guarantee that something sticks on board and can keep going face.
Thank you, Hearthstone, for confirming to me that moccasins are not just shoes. Apparently, they have other meanings as well. We can highlight this card a bit because it actually has some pretty interesting wait, what? Sorry.
Interesting.
I feel like
let me have a go. Let's see what happens.
I'm so sorry. God.
There we go.
Okay. I somehow highlighted I searched the card but clicked on the wrong button. Classic Gia. Okay. But anyway, the point is, when it's the only minion on board, it can have poisonous, right? So if Bankyugi wants, he can leave this stealth indefinitely, and it means that Alutemu can't necessarily get an Octobot online without proccing it. He likely will not do that ever, because Shaman does have access to one-shotting an Octobot with the likes of spell damage plus Lightning Bolt, for example.
I think he ended up picking... Oh, he didn't go for buff there. Draw a card. Okay, so clearly trying to turbo through his deck very, very quickly here, right? Because while he's losing on board, the eternal out that you have is that if you can just buy yourself enough time, Shaman is so susceptible to a quick combo.
Out of my way.
Oh my god, the portal off the top was perfect as well for Bankyugi to be able to send everything face. Alutemu was just dying.
He is. There's no... Okay, so you can go prep Swindle to try and find Contact, right? Because Contact is the one thing that's missing here. A Prize Plunderer would be a very close second. Okay.
Now Octo proc it. He has Brain Freeze Plunderer to get rid of the 6/4. And I guess freeze the Marsh Spawn.
Efficient is sufficient.
Right.
That's an upgrade.
And I guess you can slot in the One Thief too, just because there's still going to be quite a lot of pressure on the other side. It's obviously kind of sad to play this many cards before you see a field contact, but I do feel like the situation is pretty dire here.
Yeah, he just wants to make sure he's not dead to lightning bolt outs at any point in the game.
Okay, so obviously the 6/4 is going to die this turn to Prize Plunderer. If he chooses to get rid of the 2/3, then there will be 5 points of damage left, so he's effectively at 8, which is still safe into even a double lightning bolt type of out, so I think it's okay. But I do want to see 2 minions here, either frozen or cleared. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got it. He's got it. And this should allow him to clear up everything very easily on the following turn. Secret Passage is looking pretty good here. Still no contact, obviously.
Oh my god.
But it's looking okay.
This deck is nasty. I want
Pretty
double
sick.
guidance. From this point for Bankyugi, I'm just interested in generating as much burn as possible.
Agreed. Yeah, it also gets you a 3/3 here, which is very, very tasty.
Oh,
Studies.
could be big.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to guidance again this turn because he doesn't have mana anyway to play whatever he gets from it. But you have to ask, are you going to play Studies next turn anyway? Unclear. So with this one overload, he'll have 5 mana next turn. So if you don't play another guidance, you can go Totemic plus Wand Maker. But I think the Totemic is pretty ambitious at this point. Not going to do very much as long as Alutemu can clear most of this board, which we can see he can do with this Cone of Cold.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like Studies just to potentially hit Zapper and literally just get an extra 3/2 on board, because at this point, you know, if you're not hitting spell damage off the second guidance, just having more stats in play is worth a lot.
So this Ethereal Og Merchant's pretty interesting to buff the Cone of Cold, actually, but without one more spell damage, the breakpoint is a bit weird because of all these 3 health minions. So maybe he starts with the Golem even. It's rush draw a card, right?
It is, yeah.
If he can find himself Shadow Step or another Ethel, suddenly the Cone of Cold becomes insane.
The question is, though, with Secret Passage and getting down to so few cards in deck, I wonder if he can get away with just using Cone of Cold to delay. Does he actually have to clear the board anymore? Because he is getting kind of close to doing the combo at this point, depending on what he gets off the Passage.
True. Oh, but if it's Passage, there's so little time left.
Yeah.
It looks like Alutemu maybe got a bit paralyzed by all the decisions this turn, is going to go Neophyte instead. Ends up with Brain Freeze, which is amazing.
That's good.
Yeah. Gets Cult Neophyte down, can Brain Freeze away the remaining Note Taker.
Sure, yeah. This looks good to me.
Did he miss an attack? It looks like he missed 2 even, the Octobot and the Prize Plunderer.
Just roped out. Too many decisions going on there for Alutemu, and that one does hurt. Again, every point of damage you miss potentially means 1 extra bleed that you have to draw in an all-in combo play. Lightning Bolt off the Wand Maker. Overdraft!
Oh my god! And you can just get more spell damage with the Primordial Studies. Bankyugi is on the brink of achieving lethal. Alutemu, as Garrote Rogue, should have no healing available to him whatsoever. And this Passage did get him ways to clear the board, but is that going to be enough?
It's just still no Plunderer. Oh, still no contact. Sorry, how does he not have the card draw yet? He can obviously clear this board quite happily on this turn, but what's the follow-up? You can go Neophyte, Step Neophyte? I don't know. Maybe play the Garrote preemptively to try and just cheese out a lethal next turn.
Maybe. I kind of like stepping the Prize Plunderer in that case as well, so that you can send more of these minions face.
Maybe it's even Step Octobot, though, just so you can try and go for the lethal next turn if you top deck field contact.
I honestly don't know. Alutemu can work with so little information because Bankyugi's hand is entirely generated. Not even kidding.
That's true. Oh my god, that's so hard to work against.
Yeah. So it looks like he is going to face tank 2 more damage to get the full clear here, but he does go for the Step Octobot to preserve some type of combo win condition. Understandable, you laid that out there, but Bankyugi has a chance for lethal next turn. Needs 1 more piece of burn or a big enough overload.
So if he hits Zapper, he can do 4 plus 3. That would be lethal, right?
Yes, I agree. And he would even have 1 mana spare at the end of it.
Perfect. Save it for next game.
So insta studies here. If you miss, big deal. You're at 30. Just go for like the Canal Slugger, I guess. And these are all rather expensive, but Guild Trader does represent 2 spell damage. So, like, it's just lethal next turn if you take Trader, right? Because you can go Slogger now, and that's Overload 1.
Correct.
So next turn, Guild Trader plus Lightning Bolt is 4 damage plus another piece of Overload, right?
It's just lethal no matter what you do with Guild Trader next turn, right? Because it's 5 plus 4.
Yeah.
There is little time.
So just Slogger here, I think. He sees it. Neophyte off the board. Alutemu, 1 chance to win the game right.
Oh, no.
The Golem is draw, I think. What if it gets field contact?
Okay, okay, sure, sorry. 1 last chance.
Oh, I can't look. No, step the Golem.
Okay, 1 last chance.
We are hoping so hard right now.
This is ridiculous.
He's like, he's unlucky here? Really?
What does he think is going to happen, Edwin? Like, this is fine for him.
Okay, well, it's okay, Bankyugi. You've won.
You've won the game. It's over. I guess
All Alutemu can do here is just brain freeze.
Yeah. He just needs to hope that he survives an extra turn here. I think it was correct to go all in because he realized he was likely dead. Bankyugi, I really wonder what he thinks he missed on this previous turn. Trading Overdraft for an out?
I don't know. Okay, if you're Alutemu here... Oh, he's trade. Okay. Yeah, fair enough, fair enough. Alutemu just is hoping he's not dead here. The hand, once again, is 100% generated, so it's okay for him to assume that sometimes he lives here.
Bankyugi clearly upset with something. I mean, either way, he gets the win here. I'd be curious to know if we've missed anything here, because from what I saw, it looked like the cleanest lethal setup he had there, right, by picking the extra spell damage, as you said. Oh, maybe playing the Canal Slugger was the one way he lost because it gives Lifesteal deal 3. Was that a throw in that aspect? Whereas if he'd just not played anything, he has the same chance of surviving. He could have just gone Devolving instead of Canal Slugger, and then he would potentially have missed lethal.
Yeah, good spot. Alutemu was at 7, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you just go Guild Trader Lightning Bolt, that is 5 damage, and then the Overdraft is dealing 3. So, yes, he didn't necessarily have to play the Canal Slugger.
Yeah, the Overdraft's dealing 4 because of the 1 overload from Canal Slugger. But yes, it would have been 1 off either way, sorry.
Yeah, if you don't play the Canal Slugger, it's still an point. But you can also make the reverse argument. And again, we're just nitpicking here because we have no idea what happened with Bankyugi at the end there, why he was looking to be upset. Like, that if you leave more damage on board, what if Alutemu has the runner just bleeds off the top out, right? Because he would have left 5 damage on board and a dagger, so that would have left Bankyugi at a 24 breakpoint, which is only technically 1 spell damage. So I don't think it's wrong to play the Canal Slugger necessarily.
Yeah, he could have gone Devolving though, which at least chips some damage off the board that works around a different breakpoint. So I do think very possibly that was a very subtle mistake from Bankyugi that possibly costs him the game. But either way, it didn't happen here, and he can quite happily move on to the next game, beating Garrote Rogue with Quest Charmer. Not something that we expect to see, but honestly, Gia, maybe we should start expecting, because Bankyugi, again, time after time after time, on this Quest Charmer just seems to be hitting the absolute nuts. And now, once again, he's up against the Garrote Rogue, and he's on the Paladin this time, a matchup that I, again, don't think should be that good for Bankyugi.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. The Paladin, while they do have very strong curve options, the time that they really start to ramp up in the game is generally when Rogue is 2-3 turns away from dealing the counter lethal, and those threats do tend to come one at a time, right? So the Rogue can very happily use Brain Freeze or Prize Plunderer to delay that even. I will say there's significant disruption to be had with Secrets, though. The version that actually includes Galloping Savior and Oh My Yog, I feel like can be a bit more disruptive. But as it turns out, Bankyugi is running the other version that has Far Watch Posts instead. This is not the other version. This is his other version.
Right, yeah, the Bankyugi special.
But the Watch Posts do kind of threaten the Rogue a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, they can be very annoying, especially if you buff them up at the start. There's, you know, if you have to use like Shadow Step on a Prize Plunderer to kill one of them off in the early turns, that's a big, big win for the Paladin.
Alutemu, meanwhile, with a relatively slow hand. I completely agree that in this matchup, you're not supposed to just tempo out Prize Plunderer. It's too valuable to deal with bigger minions later on. Although on this next turn, I wouldn't hate him going Neophyte plus 1 Thief just to have some measure of things on the board while he's waiting to draw a Secret Passage / Shroud.
Coin Bannerman is interesting as well. Like, there is technically a curve option with Barov, which I don't necessarily hate, but it does disrupt the rest of his hand quite a lot.
Octobot, risky to just leave on board because Hand of Adal would allow the 2/2 to trade over it without getting the frenzy value. So if there's going to be an Octobot, I think he has to either clear the Bannerman or proc it right away. And between those options, I prefer clear the Bannerman. It's at the cost of a very precious Prize Plunderer, but it means the Octobot can potentially discount one more thing because you get to proc it next turn with a card draw.
Alternatively, we could just see something like Neophyte Wand Thief. I appreciate that it allows for a buff, but maybe by getting yourself a secret, you can hit either you know, any of the card draw options in AI, Spring Water, Cram Session. None of these, basically.
The Flame Strike is furious. I mean, he has prep in hand. That
True.
can maybe buy him an extra turn. If we look at this as a 5-mana Flame Strike, in 2 turns could be quite relevant. Because honestly, Alutemu is just trying to put together a scuffed game plan with 0 card draw right now. It takes Shooting Star though, which is also reasonable, but I'm unsure because in a Bannerman world, post-Bannerman world, how much clearing potential does that actually have?
Oh, to be in a Banana Man world. I agree. I think it's really just the Divine Shields, right? If you're facing down Devout Pupils, Shooting Star becomes a lot better than Flame Strike, but it was close. I was on the fence with that one.
Maybe he even just took it to proc his own Octobot at some point. But
That's
right
true.
now, Octobot is very low priority. There's just nothing to discount this hand. This Garhot Rogue draw. 2 games in a row, no field contact. This is big sad.
There is just absolutely nothing. No draw, no contact. You can obviously go for a board-based game plan here with... I mean, I guess you just start by stepping the Wand Thief, right? And hope for something better off of that. I
agree. Nothing doing here. It's already that desperate. We're in step 1 Thief territory. It's like the worst feeling because it's so low on the list of priority minions to Shadow Step. But in this situation, he's got to find some chance at card draw, even if it's Cram Session for 1. Ideally, AI or Spring Water, but you take an Evocation here if it were available.
Yeah, the only other alternative I realistically see is just play as if the next card in your deck is Field Contact and essentially concede if it isn't by like playing Octobot, maybe proccing it as well, and then trying to set up for a big Field Contact turn. He's kind of doing that here because again the Shadow Step is being saved, which does imply he really needs a good target for it in the next few turns.
It's so sad. He's had to use a combo piece like that as well. And you know, even if it's contact off the top, he has 1 battle cry. I think it needs to be Secret Passage off the top, maybe Shroud into a contact. Whereas for Bankyugi, like obviously you'd rather save Samuro for a big rogue board, but with Alutemu's play so far, where it's been slow, nothing efficient, no card draw played, if you think there's not going to be a big board, this is an opportunity to just start being the aggressor by playing Samuro here. Follow up with Hand of a Doll.
Oh, but I think there probably is going to be a big board. Or what if, for example, it's literally just field contact Divine Shield at some point? You don't have an answer to that if you just play Samuro. You leave yourself so defenseless to the point where I think I would rather just go like Hero Power, Hand of a Doll, and then you at least get to play Devout Pupil next turn, right? Whereas with this line, you don't even have a strong follow-up next turn.
You don't. I was thinking the next turn would be Hand of a Doll and try to play something off the top, but it's not as though he has no answer to field contact Divine Shield, because you can sometimes hope the Samuro sticks at 5 health.
Sure.
And then there is the Libram of Justice just to have a weapon. It's kind of gross, but at some point, Bankyugi was going to have a gross turn leading up into the Devout Pupil, so it's just kind of choosing between this turn and the turn after.
The animation on Samuro is going very weird. I think the tip of his sword is wrapping through reality round to the left of the card animation. Again, I thought there was a bug on my screen for a second when I saw that. But either way, a reasonable draw here for Bankyugi. It just allows him to play something in what has been a very lackluster couple of turns for both players. Alutemu, again, we are looking at pretty much exactly card draw off of this One Thief.
But what does he proc it with? Cult Neophyte?
Prep?
So many.
Like, if you go prep One Thief, you can then hit, what, on 7 mana? Mask?
Mask?
Which is bad.
Did I just say Mask? Oh my god.
Mask?
Sorry, it's happening.
Mask, darling, mask.
Yeah. You leave out breakpoints for Deep Freeze and Grand Finale, which might have been decent in this situation, but it's fair, you know, because like if we are trying to draw contact at some point, you do need to have battle cries in hand to really make that pop. These are not card draw. Okay, it takes Brain Freeze, which kind of replaces the One Thief as field contact fuel in hand, but it's really not dealing with the immediate problem of this pressure on board. Again, not saying this is wrong from Alutemu, he's just in a terrible spot all around.
He's just not winning this game of Hearthstone right now. He needs some help off the top. There's so much card draw stacked in his deck right now, and I like the way that he's playing this, right? He's saying every turn, I'm leaving myself out. If I just go all in, you lose the game 100% of the time, and it has to be like, maybe not 100%, but it has to be exactly secret passage for there to be any chance whatsoever. Whereas this way, he's leaving Swindle, Field Contact, Shroud, secret passage, so many good draws. He just needs to get them.
But for Bankyugi, he's been gifted this window where Alutemu's been doing nothing. How does he best capitalize? Is it Devout Pupil or Broom? Honestly, I was a bit interested in Bannerman Broom because that seemed to make the trades a little bit cleaner. But if you're just going to fit in a hero power with the rest of the mana, then sure, it's not actually that much more pressure than just going Devout Pupil. Finally, some card draw.
There we go. That's the one. If he can get him a secret passage, second Swindle, Shroud of Concealment, this has such a high chance of being good here.
Okay.
There we go. There we go.
Okay. But there's only really 2 cards that go with field contact at the moment. Does he take the turn off by going Shroud, Octobot, proc? That's a lot of damage on the other side.
It is, yes, but obviously that's the kind of one benefit you can have against Paladin is you know that they have effectively 0 burst, so you can play your game plan very close to the edge.
Gets him a nicer way to proc as well with the Penflinger with stealth. He can proc the Octobot with the Penflinger, leave that on board. Next turn you go contact, and then Brain Freeze the Penflinger's back in hand to keep the card draw train going.
I like it a lot.
Is he stepping the Octobot?
Oh, okay. This makes sense, right? He's just trying to go for one really, really big field contact turn.
I can see that. Dude, I tried to click on show remaining cards for Alutemu and he's just not even halfway through his deck yet. That's how silly this game has been. Well, all right then. Bannerman plus Cariel available for Bankyugi. He himself has had a very slow curve. I mean, in terms of what Paladin can do, he's just hit so few Libram discounts, but I mean, there's still opportunity to put a lot of pressure forward, so I would favor that.
Really? It's not too heavy.
Watch posts.
That's interesting. That's got to be better, right?
You have to have a strong read on field contact right now.
Yeah. Or at the very least, that's what you play around because you're not losing to anything else.
Yeah. Well, there you have it. The 4 health on that also makes Alutemu's life really awkward because that's another card he needs to play before the Prize Plunder activates it. And he can't really play cards without playing the contact because then he won't have fuel for the contact. So I think he has to accept that a lot of these cards are going to have 1 extra mana tagged onto them.
Agreed. Yeah, you're just starting Field Contact, Org Merchant on it, Penflinger Prize. Oh no, wait, you have to proc the Octobot as well. Okay. So we got to be a little careful here. That's nice.
No steps fine because that'll go back down to 0 anyway.
That's an upgrade.
Okay, just clearing more minions rather than giving Divine Shield does make sense as well.
Window playable for 3. And then he can go 0 cost Octobot proc that.
Oh yeah, look at this.
Not enough though, is it? Or like he has to step the Prize Plunder again to kill another minion. Because there's 11 on board.
I guess that's a little too scary. Man, I really wanted to Shadow Step the Octobot here, but I guess that's just not a possibility, is it?
I mean, he's dead to any buff, so
yeah.
I think it has to be more clearing here. On the 1-1, yeah, and then Prize Plunderer here, and then...
Oh, he's going with the Org Merchant as well!
I thought he would stop there.
Yeah, same.
Because with this order, actually, he takes 1 extra damage. If you're planning to use the Ethereal Aug Merchant, then you can have Penflung and Ethereal on the 2-2 and then dagger down the 1-1. It's just a bit of panic towards the end there, which, you know, Alutemu is in a very rough spot, so things like this do happen, but now the combo is gutted. However, Bankyugi doesn't really have a good clear for this board.
He doesn't right now, no city tax, and obviously Samuro already been used. It's really just whether or not he can survive afterwards. Obviously you go Kazakus. There are 2 very good outcomes on Kazakus, probably for 5, right? Buff or spell damage are both fantastic to either kill them with this or reactivate the combo.
Yeah, I think even the full board game plan I like the look of, because if Bankyugi didn't go for some AoE here, it's unlikely that he's going to have it the next turn. So here we go, 5 cost for +2/+2 and everything? Or is it 1 cost just to have that flexibility on the mana?
Both have merit. He can spend the rest of his mana on good stuff. He does go for 5 and he hits neither of the good outcomes. Deal 3 to 2, I guess, is the best he can get to chew through this board.
Yeah. Even this Divine Shield is such a pain to proc. Like, do you trade the Octobot in? You just say, I don't need Penflinger anymore, trade that in?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't actually think he has much time to repeatedly play Penflinger from this point, so I do like getting rid of that. And then you see where the Golem hits go. Okay. Penflinger's back though. He wants more usage from it. Wait, did he even? Oh, he took freeze, did he? Oh, it's deal 3, my bad. Okay.
Poison deal 3. Okay, okay.
Oh, okay.
So he was just preserving the higher health on Octobot because he's afraid of city tax?
Fair enough, yeah. I do think he had a strong read on no city tax, so I think it would have come down last turn.
That's fair, yeah.
Top deck scary, fair enough, but for Bankyugi here, Libram of Justice plus Cariel, you can clear 2 minions.
Oh yeah, I guess Libram of Hope with a poison on board is really not very strong, is it?
Yeah. Divine Shield also super easy for Alutemu to deal with the Penflinger in hand. Honestly, from Bankyugi's perspective, because he's seen 2 Ethereal Aug Merchants, right? it's the board he's scared of now rather than the combo. So I just want to get rid of this board.
So wait, if he
knows what the golem is as well.
If he goes Cariel plus Libram, he takes 3 damage and he leaves 5 on board, so he'd be down to 16, which means he would just be dead to the straight up Garots rather than, he doesn't even need anything on top of that. And even with this, he's still just dead, right? He takes 8. He's down to 16. As long as Alutemu can play both Garots, draw every bleed, this is lethal.
He absolutely can. Field contact, draw with the prize plunderer. If he still doesn't hit Garot, or concealment, sure. There's just infinite battle cries because of this Penfinger and so many spells.
Yeah, he needs to go face first, then he can start killing off his minions. He's counted up, he knows what he's looking for, it's just whether he can get it in time, and I think he can.
Yeah. Great spot there. Even if Bankyugi went for the other line with the Libram of Justice, like he still removed the max damage that he could with the Cariel without needing to face tank. But Alutemu knew it was enough to get there. No spell damage required. Just Garot, bleed. We're going to game 3.
Oh, that was such a close game. Like, even those micro decisions along the way, like Alutemu's choice to trade off a Guardian Orc Merchant as opposed to a as opposed to an Octobot, meant he had 1 less damage on board, and he had like exact lethal at the end there. I guess 1 over because of the dagger, but those tiny things could have lost him the game, could have won him the game. So close, but overall, a great salvaging of that game from Alutemu, because it started off looking absolutely horrendous, but with some very cool, calm, and considered play, he turned around an unwinnable game.
Yeah, that was an interesting situation on all parts. We don't very often get to see 2 decks operating at close to minimal power level. I want to say both our players had very bad draws here. Like, Bankyugi saw so few discounts throughout the course of that. Maybe we can also look to his deck building a little bit, where a lot of the deck feels disjointed in the way that Libram Paladin often is, but just the fact that you're not running the secret package also makes it harder to thin your deck without that sort of the Fallen just getting you pseudo card draw. The use of the Samuro is something we brought up as early as the beginning, right? Where I said it's probably okay to just be aggressive here because Alutemu has had a very slow opener. We can look at it towards the end, like that kind of came back to bite Bankyugi, but if he didn't have that pressure, it later started dealing 4 attack because of the Hand of Adal, right? Then Alutemu also would have had more time. It's just so discreet, the 2 different ways the game can go.
It is indeed, and I think playing around, both players playing reasonably around what they could from their opponent. I still have questions about Samuro coming down on turn 4 for Bankyugi. I still kind of feel like, even though it was so much slower of an immediate tempo play to go Hero Power Hand of Adal, you can set up for the Pupil to turn after, and Samuro, especially when it's buffed up by Bannerman, is just so strong against Rogue in these mid-game turns. It clears off everything they can play, even a Divine Shielded field contact at that point in the game. But either way, he made the plays that he made, and it of course had some upsides, even if it didn't end up in a win for Bankyugi. And so now Alutemu switching over to his Face Hunter, Bankyugi once again lining up the Paladin, and this one is a little bit of a close one, right? Especially when you factor in Bankyugi's unique build of Paladin that again has some things working for him and some things working against him.
That is true. This hand is already looking more reasonable, though, with the Aldor Truthseeker. I don't know if you should be keeping that on the play versus a deck as quick as Face Hunter, though. I'd be inclined to full toss, but Bankyugi does not agree with me. There's not that many cards you would rather see in the early game, to be fair. Like, Aldor Attendant is just so head and shoulders above all the rest of it. But Double City Tax is super good versus Face Hunter, isn't it? He trades one away, though.
Yeah, I kind of liked holding on to both of those, because even if 1 damage doesn't necessarily clear the entire board, 2 damage probably will, right?
I think so. Even if you have to do it over the course of 2 turns. Like, Alutemu is not running Wriggling Horror, so it's not likely that he's able to get more health on his minions.
Either way, super strong start, no matter how you want to approach this for Alutemu. It could, of course, just be Intrepid Initiate on this turn. But I don't know. Are we at all interested in just going full power level turn 1 and start punching them?
True, I want to put the Og Merchant on it immediately as well. It's just the most pressure. You saw City Tax traded away. I don't want to play around that. And then he has Neophyte to follow up the curve.
Yeah, I guess the question is, what do you do if they just press Hero Power next turn? That's actually quite annoying if you go for the line of Coin Orc Merchant. Whereas with this play, you can go Orc Merchant targeting the 1-1 next turn, right? With Neophyte Coin Orc Merchant. And so even though it pushes 2 less damage immediately with this line, overall, I think it's better against the expected play of just Hero Power.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And even though this top deck is expensified for Alutemu, it's kind of good. It allows them to get a value trade here.
It's more mana efficient. Perfect.
I mean, he does end up with a 4-1 and a 1-1, which again is pretty poor into hero power, but there's that difference you highlighted of there still being the Gordon in hand to shoot down a 1-1 if need be. You going Neophyte Coin Og Merchant?
Okay, it's I guess still weak to City Tax. I wonder if your opponent trades City Tax, does that make you think they have or don't have another one in hand? Because like mathematically, yes, they're less likely to have one in hand because you've seen one go back into the deck. But would you ever do that if you didn't have a second one in hand? It's just a good card in the matchup. It's so weird.
I have no idea. Oh, this argument existed before tradable as well, just for like whether or not you play a card that looks like it wasn't efficient there, and then they're just happy to throw it because they have the second one. Who knows? Oh, Companion's sick here. Yes. Low impact one.
Okay, it protects against Cariel in some ways, I guess, but yeah, it's not the one you're looking for.
And with this buff target from Alutemu, again, his first instinct to buff the Initiate to play around City Tax. But he's thinking now, what if it's Samuro? I just saw a Bannerman, and there's like 4 mana available on the next turn. So he's choosing to play around Samuro instead here, be slightly worse to City Tax. And he'll be sad to find out that it is indeed the City Tax that's in hand.
Ooh. That's interesting though now, because you can go for Cariel this turn, which is reasonably strong. You know, it can be traded up into, but it's still okay, and set up for Barov plus City Tax. But then, of course, you're not playing Aldor Truthseeker on curve, which you really want to do.
I mean, if the Barov City Tax lets you get the full clear, I think it's completely worth getting rid of Aldor Truthseeker. But this second Neophyte for Alutemu is so clutch. It turns off the Barov plus City Tax option. And it means Bankyugi will probably just default to Aldor, which is not the end of the world. It's a 5-7.
It is a 5-7, isn't it? And Rhino obviously can get through it with a little bit of help from the old Initiate. And you're still pushing a fair bit of damage, but then the City Tax, the fact that it has lifesteal is just so big. It's so backbreaking for Alutemu, who is completely gassed out.
Yeah, and because he has to use the Rhino here, I think the True Aim Crescent is pretty much a Light's Justice from this point. But I think he can maybe still pull this one out the bag if Bankyugi doesn't get Libram of Hope in the near future, right? Because you go Initiate plus Rhino, that pushes 1 damage, and then you get to push another 7. Bankyugi's down to 8. That's doable for Hunter. Even though he goes City Tax, on 2 targets, that's only healing for 2. 10 is still doable for Hunter. Oh, wow.
Not going with the Rhino, though. He can attack both in, then go with the weapon, then push the 4 face, and he's just setting up for double Rhino attacks with the charge. Okay, I can respect it.
True enough. I just worry, like, how many trampleable targets are there at this point for Bankyugi with a Bannerman played?
Not many.
It does somewhat disincentivize the Barov City Tax play, though. It's just not getting that much value, but for Bankyugi here, don't think he can afford to be too greedy for much longer. But if he's going Eldar Attendant, it looks like he's just going Truth Seeker after that, because that's not the order you want to do the Barrow turn.
It's not correct. No, yeah. Even with Rhino, I was going to say, like, it makes it harder with weapon, but then you just attack into the 1/1 and then the Barrow with the weapon, so it wouldn't even work in that world.
And the plus attack buff on the Truth Seeker is so relevant here, because
I know.
Trample and survive here, but Alutemu does have Piercing Shot instead to deal with it and trample 1 minion, I guess.
So what, you just go Piercing Shot now plus the weapon and Hero Power, send everything else face?
I think so.
Yeah, it keeps the board clear, right? So City Tax again is really not doing that much.
You could make the argument for, if you're playing around City Tax, trade the Marsual and send the weapon face instead. The Marsual's not realistically going to attack again next turn because there's a 1/3.
That's interesting.
But I just don't think it's Rhino this turn. Because like the whole point of delaying Rhino and having the weapon was to give yourself the opportunity to trample twice in 1 turn. Which is simply not doable this turn. And the Piercing Shot lets you weave in Hero Power too.
I agree. That makes sense to me. It looks like he's going with Piercing Shot on the 1/1 though. Wow, I did not see this line.
Okay, so he's just setting up for a trample lethal next turn. You have to have Libram of Hope or I just win.
That's pretty sick.
He just wins.
I hadn't even thought of this. So 2 Truth Seekers have been played, so they can still trade and hit the Libram of Hope. That's still an out.
That is super sick. I didn't think of this either. And just the fact that he has damaged a taunt minion means that Bankyugi can play another taunt to protect it. It's just gonna head through. And Alutemu with a big pop-off. He's not even won the series yet. But if I were him, I'd pop off too. That play, obviously, I myself could not have come up with it, but I'd be very proud if I did.
Oh, such a sick line by Alutemu. I wonder, again, I'm trying to think of what the downsides of this play were. Like, he looked a little bit upset immediately after he'd made it, and I wonder if that's just because he was still trying to think it through, didn't have enough time. There's no, like, lifesteal buffs that punish you for leaving a minion in play. If it was Barov to reduce the health of the minions, you obviously still have lethal. It's really just Libram of Hope, I think, as you correctly put.
And honestly, if Bankyugi had the Libram of Hope, no matter what Alutemu went for, no matter what line, whether it was the one we were talking about or what he ended up on, he would have lost from that point. Because Bankyugi could heal face, he could heal the minion, whatever he needed by that point. So I think in terms of playing around what's his best out, or playing into his best out in the world where there's no Libram of Hope, I think Alutemu did find the right spot because he reduced his board to nothing, so City Tax couldn't heal at all. He retained a taunt minion on board that was trampleable for the lethal, and he made sure that there was always going to be a target by virtue of it being a taunt. Because nice job here with the key cards. I'm glad you did the thing this time. Because if he had gone for the other line of the Piercing Shot and then pushed the Neophyte face, Bankyugi would have had slightly less health, or slightly more health for the turn, but the Rhino was still not guaranteed to get 2 trample targets with only 1 minion left on board by that point, right? The Eldar Attendant. So just very cool from Alutemu. You love to see it.
Do indeed. And now it's all leading up to the Demon Hunter for Alutemu, his signature deck last week, and one that I think, as we're seeing, seems to be in a reasonable spot against the Paladin. I don't know what to say, because I was right there with you thinking that the point of Paladin was to be able to put on too much pressure, have 2 awkwardly spaced minions against the Demon Hunter, but so far that just really doesn't seem to be coming into actuality. Maybe the difference maker is those far watch posts for Bankyugi, which are a real nightmare for Demon Hunter to deal with.
They are. Maybe less so for OTK compared to the old Brute version, which was cutting I-Beam. Thankfully, for the OTK version, they do have ways to just one-shot a Watch Post and stop that from disrupting their quest too much. But I do still think, yeah, between the high pressure from the Paladin and the ability to disrupt with the Watch Post, it should come out slightly Paladin favored. But then again, Watch Post is really the only disruption in this version without the secrets, which I also thought were a major factor of trying to beat Demon Hunter.
Bankyugi with the Whelmet. Oh, okay. Watch Post on 2. I wonder though, because Bankyugi with the emote there, after Alutemu full kept, right, does he expect there to be a glide now? Like, because this was a weird full keep by Alutemu, right?
It kind of was. This was a full keep? Sorry, I didn't even notice, man. I
mean, these were the 3 cards. I'd looked away at the time because I was looking at the list, but he had these 3 cards in his mulligan, and he still has them now. So either he triple mulled and got them all back or whatever, but these are the 3 cards he had.
That's super interesting. I hardly ever see Guild Trader keeps. Obviously, if you keep it, it's more for its tradable purpose rather than the clearing purpose. And then Double Jump doesn't guaranteed get you to progress through your quest. Immolation, I can see the value for just to be able to deal with a Watch Post, but we can talk about that, I guess, a little bit more later, because in a world where there's Glide, the Watch Post is actually such a backbreaker, right? Because even if Alutemu glides, all the cards he gets back will be made more expensive if you leave a Watch Post alive.
Yeah, and then brought back down to their original cost, which is a travesty for Demon Hunter. You can't even consider playing actual cost for your cards.
Imagine spending mana, Derek.
Couldn't be me.
Well, we are once again in this situation for Bankyugi where the Barov is not really playable, not really doing anything in this matchup, but if he just wants max pressure, he could drop it.
Mm-hmm.
I hate it though. I think it's attendant hero power.
Okay, that makes sense. Oh man, it's just another one of these hands where like turns, I don't know, 4 through 6, you just have nothing to do, it feels like. Unless you hit exactly attendant, there's just nothing. And so tempo Barov is the line, and boy do I hate it.
This is Alutemu's last immo, to be fair, but
yeah,
I'd be pretty happy to spend it here.
Oh, do you even bother? Don't you just go like trade acro? I kind of want to just ignore this and do my next quest level.
Well, fair enough.
Another happy guildie.
Yeah, exactly what Alutemu's going for. He's got Glide, not outcastable in the near future, but even used on his own hand only should be decent.
Oh man, he's got a couple pieces of the combo already reduced. It's probably not going to be able to get there because, of course, you kind of need a 0 mana Fell Screen Blast to be able to get there, really. So probably ends up being a glide game at some point along the way. But basically, it's just a strong curve for Alutemu. However, for Bankyugi, this is shaping up a little bit nicer. Bannerman into buffing Battlegrounds. Battlemaster, Liadrin, Libram of Hope. He has some strong turns coming up at least.
And because the Hand of the Doll has buffed the Barov, it's not just Immolation Aura to clear everything here. It needs to be I-Beam plus Immo, or Hero Power plus Immo, but I don't really want to face tank 5 at the moment.
It's so good. I really want to just go like clear and glide on this turn, even if you're losing a whole bunch of cards. You can't just ignore this board now because I think you are too afraid of BGBM. Or just
there is a partial
buff.
Clear available with just I-Beam the Barov, which removes 8 power from the board, right?
Good point.
3-1 and the Barov, and then you can still glide. I think that's a pretty decent halfway point. But the problem is you only end up with those 4 cards after the glide, and there will likely be another threat the next turn. Like, is Turbo Kurtrus better than just getting the full clear in this situation is the question. I am unsure.
Me too. Like I can theoretically see the argument for going for dumping some of these non-draw cards while you can before you go for the glide as well. Like, for example, Arcanist Immolation, or it's massive overkill on this board, obviously. But it does just mean you're not going to draw Immo. You're not going to draw the Talented Arcanist after you play the glide next turn.
I like this. It also gives him the potential to outcast the glide on the left. Maybe.
That's true.
Like, you'd have to dump the other Arcanists, but again, you don't need them for the combo necessarily.
Yeah.
There's guild traders in the deck. And more importantly, you get the I-beam in outcast position, because with the Moarg, he does actually allow himself the health total to be safe even with a BGBM in hand.
That's a very good point. That may actually just be the play this turn. It's all playable right now.
Yeah, just everything from the left.
Yeah.
A 10 damage lifesteal I-beam. I
like it. Yeah. Just heals a lot, buys you a lot of extra time. Alutemu agrees. The Glide Master himself, would you have any doubt whatsoever as to what the play this turn would be? Yes is the answer, because so does Alutemu.
Clearly just thinking about whether it is worth dumping the Arcanist, and I completely agree it is worth it because it allows you to actually outcast the Glide, and it allows you to, or it makes it less likely that you get something that isn't card draw in the post-Glide hand.
Nicely done, of course, to target the Libram of Wisdom minion so that you shuffle a relatively bad card back into their deck. That they can then draw off the top. Libram of Hope, though, okay. Already this hand is reasonable, and Lady Liadrin as well certainly doesn't hurt. Okay, this hand for Bankyugi piles on the pressure.
Really does. Yeah, start with the Hope first. Like, kind of hurts to not have that many discounts, but that big minion on its own is making the Kurtrus turn somewhat scary for Alutemu, because if BGBM is in hand, I mean...
Exact.
Well, yeah, it is. So it's thankful for Alutemu that he has the I-beam.
So you can still start with the trade, probably of the guild trader, right? Rather than the peddler, because you'd rather draw it again and discount it.
Yeah, and you want to get the Spectral Sight outcast on the left.
Oh, true.
So I would definitely I-beam here.
I agree.
You can argue about I-beam targets, maybe, if you're being ambitious to actually kill the 8/8 with the Kurtrus the next turn. Because as long as he gets the healing, he's not dead to the BGBM, but I would end up I-beaming the 3/3 just because of the Kurtrus being more healthy by that virtue. Like, there's not a 3/3 that can kill the Kurtrus in combination with, like, a Samro or something.
Yeah. Oh, is he really considering taking the risk on there just being no Battle Master? Okay. He makes the safe play. I do fully agree with it.
Just thinking about the target, I'm quite sure.
Okay, fair enough.
This Varian Rin keeps the curve going, deals with the Kurtrus, spins the deck towards BGBM.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. I'm just thinking about if there's any benefit of getting down Librams of Wisdom right now to speed up the clock with Lady Liadrin, but I don't think so.
All right.
Oh.
About Pupil pretty cheap at the moment. Alutemu, there's a Moarg that costs 0. Spectral Sight outcastable, but it takes 3 mana to do that, essentially.
Illidari Studies is a good draw. That banks him a mana on the Spectral Sight, or just play the one in Outcast.
Yeah, let's get that Spectral Sight down. Much better than Skull when you're working post-Kurtrus.
So no longer any outs for lethal, just because Iggy is too expensive at this point.
Iggy, too biggie.
Quite right. Ooh, you have double jump to hit glide though, right? You're still alive, technically, based on what you're seeing. But I think even then, you know you have to hit something a little bit extra to stay alive here.
There's also Philosophy. Okay, but the fellow wouldn't even have been that big, so... Looks like it does have to be the glide here.
Oh my god! He has to go.
I don't know how to calculate the odds on this. Is this... I mean, surely shuffling cards back into the deck makes you think the BGBM is less likely, right?
He's just praying to survive as is.
Okay.
And so there's 15 on board. Lady... I mean, it's just to play around a couple of buffs, right? Does this make Lady Liadrin not lethal?
Yes, I think that's what that was about. Agreed. Wait, what? Why is his card moving?
Oh, did he want to trade that but didn't have time? Or play it? I don't think so.
Let me think.
But yeah, there's not been enough Librams of Wisdom played to push enough damage, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. And there's not even enough hand space at this point either, right?
There's Hand of a Doll. It's one off.
15, 17, 18. That's not the other Libram of Wisdom.
Altemu's alive at 1.
Unbelievable. Does he just win now? He has a really good shot at it. You can just go Ilgi, Moarg, and then glide, right?
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely agree. Oh my gosh.
Put that in the middle.
Be so likely.
Maybe positioning matters. I don't know if your opponent can't play enough minions. I mean, it's something at least.
Yep. All
That's
he needs
nothing.
is the other Fell Scream Blast and the other... 18 at the moment? This is the only Fell Scream Blast though, and there's no more I-Beam left in the deck, so I think he has to do the Glide play instead. That allows him to find the other Guild Trader. He needs both of them right now.
There it is, traded again.
Yeah, that... yeah, okay, he gets there, I think. 100% it feels like. All these cards will be playable. Oh, there's Philosophy, it works.
That's it.
Yep.
Oh, what a win. That was so sick by Alutemu. Just playing out the Fell Scream Blast at the end when I thought he was just going to try and pray it wasn't there at all. But he does it. The dream is alive. Alutemu gets the win, and he is going, Gia, through to the first place seed.
Insane.
Oh, second place. Getting that second place breakpoint, which is so big, getting a free win going through to playoffs.
Yeah, Alutemu was reminding us with his peace sign that he is right now second place in the seeding and no chance to overtake Possessi, so he's guaranteed second place in the seeding. Functionally, though, it's the same as what Possessi has earned. That free win in the playoffs, an enormous difference maker. It's really just such a big relief for Alutemu and, you know, an amazing story for him to have been this consistent and been rewarded for it. Unfortunately for Bankyugi, that means the fringe chance, the small dream that was a million miles away is now completely unattainable. He will not be making it to playoffs, and that is the last we'll be seeing him in the season. But he has escaped relegation and has still brought his signature flair to the season, so I think he can walk away with his head held high. The other player that we need to talk about that's also cheering here is Oka Shinsuke, because that's one of the players that can maybe overtake him in playoffs, knocked out of contention.
Indeed, yeah, it's only Glory now that Oka Shinsuke needs to be afraid of. Glory just needs to reach the finals. He does not need to win the entire week. So for Oka Shinsuke, it's down to 2 of his practice partners, presumably, right? Or, well, at least 2 of his countrymen, because Oka Shinsuke has been one of the Japanese players who goes by his own style of play. He's had reasonable success